Our Verify team is tackling your questions about reopening, questions about COVID surcharges at some businesses and some stores not allowing returns. Here's investigative reporter Cheryl Mercedes.
Don't be surprised if you see some added fees on your receipts these days. Someone wrote the Verify team, my hair salon added a sanitation fee on top of services. Can they do that? Yes, they can. According to the Texas Commerce Code and the Better Business Bureau, businesses can tack on surcharges or increased prices to make up for lost revenues. What about the return policy? Someone wrote in that they noticed some stores are not accepting clothing returns. Is that allowed? Yes, it is. Federal and state laws say that private businesses can set their own return and refund policies, and they can update them as they see fit. And lastly, what about cash? A lot of people have noticed some stores are not accepting cash right now. Is that legal? Yes, it is. The Federal Reserve says that businesses can choose whether or not to accept cash. That is up to them. Back to you.
Good info. If you have something you want us to check out, email verify@khou.com or reach out on Facebook or Twitter.